The wind howled through the desolate plains as dusk settled over the frontier. The rancher, Elijah Kane, rode his horse slowly down the narrow trail, his coat flapping against the cold breeze. He wasn't searching for anything, just trying to outrun the loneliness that had followed him since his wife's passing. The world had turned gray, and every sunset felt like a reminder of everything he had lost. Until that night, when the faint sound of a rope creaking in the distance pulled him back to life. At first, Elijah thought it was the wind. But when his horse neighed nervously, he saw it, a figure hanging from a tree by the edge of the clearing. His heart slammed against his ribs. He dismounted, running toward the tree, boots sinking into the damp soil. Beneath the flickering moonlight, he saw her, a young woman, barely breathing, her skin bruised, her feet twitching weakly. A crude sign hung from her neck, half-blood. His hands shook as he drew his knife, cutting the rope with one swift motion. The girl fell into his arms like a broken doll. Her skin was cold, her lips pale, but there was still a faint pulse beneath his trembling fingers. He wrapped her in his coat, whispering, "You're safe now, darlin'. You're safe." Her eyes fluttered open for a second, hazel with streaks of green, and a single tear rolled down her cheek. Then she went limp again. Elijah didn't hesitate. He lifted her onto his horse and rode back toward his ranch, unaware that saving her would change his life forever. When dawn broke, Elijah laid her on the spare bed in the cabin, tending to her wounds with what little he knew of medicine. The girl's wrists were torn, her back lashed from a whip. She muttered something in her sleep, a language he didn't understand. "You've been through hell," he murmured softly. He stayed awake the whole night, feeding her drops of water, keeping the fire alive. Something in him refused to let her die. 3 days passed before she opened her eyes fully. She gasped, reaching for her neck as if still feeling the rope. "Easy," Elijah said, holding up his hands. "You're safe here." Her gaze darted around the small room before settling on him. "Why did you help me?" she whispered, her voice hoarse and weak. Elijah hesitated. "Because no one else would." Her name was Liana. Half native, half white. Born on the edge of both worlds, accepted by neither. The townsfolk called her cursed, a reminder of a love they refused to understand. Her father was a white trader who had loved her mother, a Lakota woman. But after her mother's death, the town turned on Liana, branding her a sin that needed to be erased. "They said I wasn't meant to exist," she said bitterly, eyes distant. Elijah clenched his jaw. "They're the ones not meant to call themselves human," he said. He brought her broth, patched her wounds, and built her strength day by day. Still, every night, she woke screaming, visions of the rope, the laughter, the hate. Elijah would sit by her side, whispering softly, "You're safe now. Nobody's gonna hurt you here." Slowly, she began to trust his voice more than her nightmares. One evening, while he was mending a saddle by the fire, she asked quietly, "Why do you live alone?" Elijah's hands froze. He looked up, meeting her curious eyes. "Lost my family," he said simply. "Wife and son. Fever took 'em." Her expression softened. "I'm sorry." He nodded once. "Ain't your fault. Just life bein' cruel again." As days turned into weeks, the silence between them became a kind of peace. She started helping him with chores, feeding the horses, fixing fences. The once fragile girl now carried herself with quiet strength. But there were still scars, inside and out. Some nights, she'd stand by the fence, staring into the horizon where her mother's tribe used to roam. "You miss her," Elijah said one night. She nodded. "She used to tell me that kindness could survive even in hate." Elijah's heart tightened. "She was right," he said, his gaze resting on her. "You're proof of that." For the first time, she smiled, a faint, trembling thing that still managed to light up the room. It had been a long time since he'd seen beauty that wasn't broken. But peace never lasted long on the frontier. Word spread through town that the half-breed witch wasn't dead after all. One morning, Elijah found a warning carved into his barn door: "Return the girl, or hang beside her." His blood ran cold. He knew what these people were capable of. The same hate that had killed her once was now coming for both of them. That night, Liana overheard him packing supplies. "You're sending me away?" she asked, her voice shaking. "No," Elijah said, his tone low and firm. "I'm taking you away." She stepped closer. "They'll kill you." He met her gaze, unflinching. "Let 'em try." The moon rose high as they saddled the horse. Liana clutched the small pouch her mother had given her, trembling. Elijah mounted first, then pulled her up behind him. "Hold on tight," he said. As they rode into the darkness, the faint glow of torches flickered behind them. The hunt had begun again, but this time, she wasn't alone. The night swallowed them whole as the sound of hooves thundered across the open plains. Behind them, the angry mob's shouts echoed through the hills, torches dancing like restless ghosts. Liana clung to Elijah's back, her heart hammering as tears blurred her vision. "They'll never stop," she whispered. Elijah's voice cut through the wind, steady and low, "Then we'll keep right until they can't find us no more." His grip on the reins was fierce, but in his heart, he knew running forever wasn't living. By dawn, they reached the foothills, a place few dared to enter. The old mines there were abandoned, rumored to be haunted. Elijah led the horse into the shadows of the caves, covering their tracks with brush. Liana shivered in the cold, but when he wrapped his coat around her shoulders, her trembling eased. "We'll rest here a while," he said. She nodded, watching his tired face as he lit a small fire. He looked older now, worn from more than just the ride. When Elijah dozed off, Liana took out the pouch her mother had given her. Inside was a carved pendant of two intertwined eagles, one dark, one light. She held it tightly, whispering in Lakota, "Guide us." The faint crackle of the fire felt like her mother's voice answering back. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time, she didn't feel cursed. She felt chosen. By the next afternoon, the posse caught their trail. Elijah saw dust rising in the distance, too much to outrun. He turned to Liana. "They'll be here by sundown." Her breath hitched. "Then what?" He stared at her for a long moment, then said softly, "Then I fight." Liana shook her head. "You'll die for me." His eyes softened. "Ain't dyin' for you, darlin'. I'm livin' because of you." The men came like a storm, guns drawn, fury burning. Elijah stepped out from the cave's mouth, his rifle steady. "You want her," he called out, his voice echoing. "You'll have to go through me." The sheriff spat into the dirt. "You protectin' a half-breed witch, Cain. You've lost your damn mind." Elijah's jaw tightened. "Maybe. But I'd rather lose my mind than my soul." Gunfire split the air. Elijah ducked behind a rock, firing back with deadly precision. Liana hid deep inside, praying between each thunderous shot. Minutes felt like hours. The battle raged until the sun dipped low, casting crimson light across the valley. When silence finally fell, the sheriff lay wounded, the rest scattered. Elijah stumbled back into the cave, blood on his sleeve, but his eyes still burning with defiance. Liana ran to him, pressing her hands against the wound. "You're hurt," she cried. He winced, gripping her wrist gently. "Just a scratch." She looked into his eyes, realizing the truth. He'd risked everything for her, a girl the world had tried to erase. And somehow, in his gaze, she saw something she'd never seen before: belonging. Days later, word spread that Elijah Cain had stood down an armed mob to protect a half-blood woman. Some called him crazy, others called him cursed, but no one dared to challenge him again. He built a small cabin higher in the hills, where no law or hatred could reach them. Liana tended to him until his strength returned, and every day, the bond between them grew stronger, like two scars healing together. One evening, as the sun sank behind the mountains, she stood outside watching the sky bleed into gold. Elijah joined her, quiet as always. "You saved me twice," she said softly. He smiled faintly. "Guess we're even now." She looked up at him, her voice trembling. "What do I call you?" His hand brushed her cheek gently. "Call me whatever you want." Her lips curved into a small, shy smile. "Then, mine." For the first time in years, Elijah laughed, deep, genuine, and alive. He pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. "Mine," he whispered back, the word carrying more promise than any vow. The wind rustled through the grass like a quiet hymn, carrying away the last echoes of hate that had haunted them both. In time, their ranch became a refuge for others like Liana, people cast out, broken, or lost. They built something beautiful from the ashes of cruelty, proving that love could bloom even where hate once ruled. When folks rode past the hills, they spoke of a strange peace that hung in the air there, and a man who'd once defied death for a girl the world condemned. Years later, when the ranch had grown into a home full of laughter and children's voices, Liana would sometimes stand beneath the same tree where her life had nearly ended. She'd look up at the sky, her hand resting over her heart, and whisper a quiet prayer of thanks, for the man who cut the rope, for the life they built, and for the love that turned pain into grace. And when Elijah would walk up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist, he'd murmur against her ear, "Told you, darlin', you were never meant to die that night." She'd smile softly, leaning into him. "No," she'd whisper, "I was meant to be found." The wind moved gently through the leaves above, the same tree now standing not as a symbol of hate, but of hope. And as the sun dipped low across the horizon, two shadows merged into one beneath its branches, no longer half, but whole.